Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you're doing well, staying safe, taking care of those closest to you, and I hope that wherever you are, that you're staying hydrated and staying cool. It has been the week as I'm recording this has been an absolutely miserable week for heat in New York City. Somewhere in the neighborhood where we've been in the 90s all week, and then have consistently been hitting like very high in the humidity, so it feels like even hotter, like 100 degrees or so. So it has been particularly brutal, especially because my most recent show of my brand with my band Bright Ugly was this past Tuesday. As I'm recording this, it happened on the let's see, that was the 19th, July 19th. We got to play with our buddies in Goalkeeper and What Makes Sense, as we were support for an excellent band from Canada called Calling All Captains. We were support for their national tour, and we were playing at Sovereign, which is a great venue. But the last time we played there was in March, and it was still like 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which I guess is zero for those who have Celsius. But it was incredibly cold, and I seem to remember at one point it snowing during our set. But this past time, even with the large number of industrial fans in the area, in the venue area itself, to keep the crowd cool, there was no ventilation or any kind of AC when you were on the stage. So the second, and this is something I've really noticed about myself lately, is that I tend to sweat very quickly when it gets very hot. So in the amount of time it took me to like plug in my bass head and get my pedal set up, I was drenched, and I was wearing shorts and a soccer jersey, and I started sweating like a lawyer in a Tennessee Williams play, I think was my ad lib on stage. But once we were playing the show, and we were playing with a temporary drummer for this one particular show, it ended up being like a very fun gig. And again, like, lots of people came up to us afterwards. It was quite fun. It was a good time, and I like gigs. I like being on stage. That's something I remember. But it was I love Goalkeeper. They played a new song, which is going to be great. So look forward to hearing them on the show later this year. And in line with what we're with my guest today, we played with the excellent band What Makes Sense, who have a new release coming out with my guest today. My guest today on the show is Wesley Bunjunas, who is the lead singer and guitarist for the Connecticut-based rock band Sunday Morning. And they're going to be releasing a split EP called Adjacent with What Makes Sense. It'll be out July 29th, which will be later this week if you're listening to this on the day it comes out. The What Makes Sense Sunday Morning EP or split EP will be out July 29th. See, even that pause right there is a function of the heat. But this ended up being like very great conversation, very tech and guitar heavy towards the end. And I'm also using a new recording software. I'm trying Riverside FM, which so I'm having a good experience with, but I'm still adjusting to its little quirks. But I like the results it's giving me so far. And this conversation has just left me very like excited about creating things. I want to continue to create more things. I want to continue doing this podcast. I want to release some new music. If anybody is listening to this and is a fan of my band Bright Ugly and wants to hear new music, at me on Instagram, I'm Will Carey 23. I want to hear from you guys. Maybe I can get a couple of a single out or two before the end of the summer. That would be pretty awesome, I think. And again, as I said, my buddies in What Makes Sense and my new buddies in Sunday Morning have got this excellent split EP coming out on July 29th. So make sure you listen to that. And let's get into my conversation with Wesley Bunjunas of Sunday Morning. So you were telling me about like getting like exposed to heavier music, like Slipknot. I'm realizing like I remember being old enough for when people thought Slipknot was like a gimmick that was never going to last. And then over the last like 20 years, they became like one of the most important bands of modern heavy metal.
Yeah, yeah. When I first listened to them, I kind of like I was like, I don't know, because like when you first think of Slipknot, you think of the masks and you think all that. Then you listen to, you're like, wow, this
Yeah.
is actually pretty heavy, and I don't know, it kind of grew on me. Like there was a time in my life where I was like super into Slipknot and like buying all the CDs and stuff
Hmm.
like that. But you're right,
Yeah.
they've like been one of the most important bands in metal like over the past couple decades.
Yeah. I remember, well, because I especially remember like when Iowa came out because and reading a ton about it because most of the times bands get lighter as they go on, but Slipknot almost like Iowa, they almost like double down on the aggression. And I remember like I don't know if this is true, but I remember reading something about like Corey like cutting himself and like singing naked and bleeding on a song. I remember reading that like all these like kooky like lead singer
I'm
kind of
pretty sure I heard
things.
about that too.
Yeah, I can't imagine like when you're in the studio, you ever think about that? It's like guys, I got a wild idea. Just roll with me on this. Here's how I'm gonna bring the thunder to this vocal performance. I need you to punch me during the entire vocal take, and that's gonna really bring out the emotion I need in this song.
We might have to try something like that on our our next EP that we're gonna do. I think we'll have to try something like that.
Oh man, exactly. And I also remember Darren from System of a Down on an album covered like an entire wall in acoustic guitars with no strings on them to get like a particular resonance in electric guitar sounds. Like I love hearing like zany like
Yeah,
studio stories like
that
that.
right. That's crazy. Like just having like the time and financial leeway to try things like that would be so awesome.
Oh, absolutely. So I would love to talk a little bit about your upcoming project here. So our mutual friends and What Makes Sense, you guys are doing a split EP.
Yeah. Yeah, it's coming out July 29th. So we're very excited. It's been like a thing that we've talked about for a while and I think just it kind of happened at the right time. We just went through with it.
Uh-huh. That's super cool. So this has been kind of in the works for a while. The idea of doing a split.
Yeah, Adam, I think we played a show. We did a couple shows with What Makes Sense a year or two ago. I can't remember if it was before COVID or after. It's all that timeline's all messed up.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
Adam approached me and asked if we wanted to do a split together, and we're like, yeah, sure. And it took a little while, and they had some songs already recorded with Chris Paquette. So we were like, let's go meet Chris and do two tracks with Chris, and it was a great experience.
Very, very cool. And and the songs that you each are bringing to this split, are these going to be exclusive for this particular release, or do you think those will come out in later in a different form?
I know for at least us, I can't speak for the What Makes Sense guys, but at least for us, these are yeah, it's specific for this release, and I'm cool with it being like that. I think it makes it more unique in that sense.
Hmm.
Because the
And did
idea
you
is
guys write these?
when like when you write when you listen to these songs, it's like okay, well these are the songs that do with What Makes Sense, so it kind of just brings you right to that place.
Oh no, absolutely. And did you write these songs like specifically for this release?
No, so we actually had these songs. We did demos for these songs a while ago, and the plan was to have them on an EP. But we did the demo so long ago that we just kept writing songs and songs, and we are like, maybe these ones don't fit with the direction that we're headed,
Hmm.
or kind of just like the collective group of songs that we had. So we kind of just chose two of the songs that we thought would stand alone, or more specifically with What Makes Sense,
Hmm.
because they have their own very unique sound. So we kind of figured, we chose these two. They're different from each other, but I think they're going to sound great with the bangers that What Makes Sense have.
Very, very cool. Yeah, it's a nice combination of sounds between the two of you guys. So like the what makes sense bringing like the melodic, easy core kind of thing, and then I think as I was saying earlier, again the pull between the light and dark of of Sunday morning.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree, and yeah, I'm just so excited for people to hear it like all together. When you listen to a split, I feel like it should be listened to. If there's four tracks, one, two, three, four. To get the full experience of all the bands. So I'm really excited for it.
That's super cool. I can't wait to hear it also. Especially if this has been in the works for a while. This will be I think it'll be a pretty cool experience again to see like how two different like sets of creative people like come together to make a creative thing. I love like splits. I love splits for that reason. One of the ones I remember the most from back in the day, I think Rancid and No Effects did one where they covered each other. That was one of my other favorite
Yeah,
memories
I think so.
of
Yeah.
split
When
EPs.
was that?
This was probably like I imagine like mid like maybe like early two like either like late 2000s early 2010s
Yeah.
is when I remember hearing about it.
Yeah, man. Oh my God. Yeah, there's a bunch of really good splits. And honestly, I don't feel like they're being done as much anymore. So when we kind of had the idea, I was like, let's bring splits back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because not only is it like, and I think about it in the context of the way modern music kind of gets made and released, and maybe especially at like the more DIY independent level, like where
Mhm.
streaming seems to dictate that you put out singles before you put out EPs, and then you put out albums, and then the sort of like collaborative nature of a split, similarly to like when like rappers do guest appearances on songs, which is something that I think
Yeah,
our scene
absolutely.
is, which is something I think our scene is starting to catch up on, is like a smart idea to like bring new people into to you and like exposure, blah blah blah, all that industry jargon. Um, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's like a real, I think it's like a really cool and easy idea to get some cool songs out and to associate and to like bring new fans into your fold, because what makes sense people will probably listen to this and be like, oh, Sunday morning I got to check them out.
Yeah, that was like, for both of us, that was kind of the plan where it's like we're similar in terms of genre or whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
Um, but like the cool thing about it has just been like the whole experience of working with another band to release music. Because when you release music, it's such like a sacred thing. Like, these are the songs you worked hours and hours and hours on, put blood, sweat, and tears, and you're releasing it out into the world, and it's such a big thing, because no one's ever heard these songs before. So
Hmm.
doing that with another band was like a really cool process. Because we made promotional plans and stuff like that, and like you could really see the passion, from them, and how much they care about what they're putting into the band stuff. So I think that's been like the coolest process of doing a split.
Hmm. Yeah, and working with folks like outside your band is always a fun thing too, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah, we've had I mean, whenever we're hanging out together, it's always it's always a good time. So like, putting out music and doing all the, behind the scenes stuff has been equally as fun.
Uh-huh. That's super cool, man. So to kind of trace this a little bit, so um how long has Sunday Morning been a band?
Oh wow. So we started like, I want to say 2016, 17. I think we put out our first music in 2017.
Hmm.
But it was a different lineup. We had two singers. Um, we split vocals. And then he left the band, I want to say 2018, 2019. And then we had our buddy Dom. who plays guitar now, joined the band, and then I took over all the singing duties. So we with this lineup, it's been like 2018, 2019.
Uh-huh. Okay, so coming up on, I guess, like almost 4 years. And I see your name come up a lot
Yeah.
when, like, because I've become buddies with like lots of the bands from Philly, like Friend Circle and Goalkeeper. And you guys come up a lot like when the Connecticut stop happens. And I'm curious what's because like north of the Bronx, I live in New York. North of the Bronx is a mystery to me a lot of times. So what is like going on in Connecticut right now in terms of alternative music?
Connecticut is alive and well right now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of really good like up and coming bands that are putting out music. A lot of friends who like we've been playing shows with forever. Like we've been playing shows with the band called Mighty Tortuga for since like 2017, 2018.
Hmm.
Bands like Scooped Up, Pull the Curtain. Like there's a bunch of really good alternative bands that we've been hanging out with and like just putting out great music consistently.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And where specifically in and did you grow up in Connecticut?
No, so I was born and I lived in Phoenix, Arizona for a while, and then I
Hmm.
moved here. I want to say like fourth grade or something. Yeah, I moved back to Connecticut when I was in fourth grade, so I've been living here since. But we're all from like Parker, Eric, and I are all from like central Connecticut, like Durham, Middlefield, which is close
Okay.
to Middletown, which is kind of like the heart of Connecticut. It's 30 minutes from New Haven and 30 minutes from Hartford. And then Dom's like from the northern
Uh-huh.
part of Connecticut, closer towards Massachusetts.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so sort of kind of that more like centralized location. My knowledge of New Haven, I saw like an amazing Dropkick Murphy show there a number of years ago, and then I think New Haven's also known for a really good pizza, but I've never spent any time there to find out yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, is that true?
The best pizza in the world. Yeah, in the world.
Oh, interesting.
I'll die on
That's
that hill.
because I live in New York and I've been done a lot of sampling, so that is high praise. I'll have to come up there and taste the wares.
Yeah, yeah. Anytime you're in New Haven, Worcester Street, Sally's Modern Bar, it's all good stuff. Pepe's is definitely the best though.
Excellent, Pepe's. I will remember that. Okay, so you moved there when you're in fourth grade, and and so like and Green Day is really like the gateway band for you for this style of music.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Uh-huh. What
yeah. I
was it
remember
Dookie?
like my dad. Oh, honestly, I think like the first album I was introduced to was Nimrod, and that's
Uh-huh.
still to this day like my favorite Green Day album. But it was like Nimrod, Dookie, Insomniac, and then American Idiot, and then just like kind of got into everything else after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes I that's a good track because I got into them late. My first Green Day album was Warning, and then I had to go back and find Dookie, and then of course American Idiot came out. When I realized that Green Day, like when Green Day had that second huge wave of popularity, is when the my theater friends in college were singing Green Day songs. That's when I was like, oh, it's penetrated the zeitgeist. They penetrated the
so,
zeitgeist again.
so yeah, man. I always forget that that was a thing because they were huge during Dookie. I mean, I wasn't. That was '94, so I wasn't alive. I was born in '98. Um, but
Mhm.
Dookie, they were huge, and then American Idiot, it was like they were bigger than they were before.
Yeah, that was like, and that like kind of redefined them in the way, and then they at the heart of like the because of course the George Bush years. So it was like super like political, and then I think they've been trying to kind of run away from that the last couple of albums. But yeah, that was like a super crazy time. So it's Green Day, and then you say your brothers what tipped you up to heavier stuff later on.
Yeah. My brother got me introduced to like Iron Maiden, Metallica, Alice in Chains, and then after I was introduced to that world of music, I kind of just went on my own and just started listening to everything. Really, you know what I mean? Like I was just so eager to listen to new music and try new things and try to learn different songs and stuff like that when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. And so you had started playing guitar around this time as well.
Yeah, I first started playing. My first like introduction to music was I played drums, and I played drums for a while, and then I tried learning guitar, and I picked up a guitar and kind of just stuck with that.
Uh huh. And yeah, starting on drums and then going to guitar. That's pretty common. That's rad, man. And so like I imagine probably learning Green Day songs and other kind of heavier stuff. When I listen to the way you sing, especially on like the most recent EP with the like Taking Ecstasy in Paris song, you kind of nail that sort of like post-hardcore like 2000s uh, screamo voice very well, I think.
Thank you. Yeah. It's the whole like screaming thing has been a work in progress. I think I've always wanted to scream, just being influenced from that kind of music, and it took a while to kind of do it without destroying my voice every night or every time I tried to do it.
Uh-huh.
But I think I'm at a spot now where I feel like comfortable doing it live and comfortable doing it in the studio. And I kind of it's nice because I kind of like pick and choose where in the song I'd like to do it. So it's been a process.
Mm-hmm. I imagine. And what was kind of like the moment where what's the technique that you learned to be able to say it to save your voice when you do that? Because I remember reading interviews with Bert from The Used, like when he used to like puke from screaming so loud, and then he had to like stop doing that because otherwise he couldn't sing. So what is there a specific technique to screaming and not losing and not shredding your throat?
Yeah, the one that I like focused on the most was kind of like the vocal fry, where it's using more of your diaphragm than because like early on when I tried to scream, it would be all in my throat and it'd all be head voice,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like I would get that feeling where like oh my god, I might throw up if I keep doing this. So like once I kind of
Uh-huh.
realized that like
Yeah.
oh if I take bigger breaths and sing from my diaphragm and really push the air instead of just like closing my throat, that's kind of where it clicked,
Mm-hmm.
and now I could do a bunch of songs in a set and feel comfortable, and my voice will take some wear at the end of the night, but not
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I'm gonna throw up.
No, absolutely, absolutely. That's that's important for career longevity, I imagine. Unless you want to go like the G.G. Allen
Yeah.
route of performance art
Oh
when it
god.
comes to punk rock. Um, I remember like so I'm a little bit older than you, and I can only imagine like you always there's always this like kind of generational thing where like you look back on what was like considered punk or considered cool, and then you're just like why. And I remember maybe being younger and thinking that Gigi Allen was like so extreme, and now I look back and now I look back and now I think about it as like no, he was like a sociopath. I mean, he was like an abused person like in his childhood, and then he became and then he became a
Yeah.
sociopath because it's not normal
Yeah.
to take a shit on the stage at a show you're doing.
Yeah.
That's a hard sell to get people in the door of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing what like social norms and mental health and all of that will help you perceive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or even still, and I don't know if you have ever felt this way, but even like I remember thinking at a certain point, in order to write like really meaningful, emotionally impactful songs, yeah, I had to be a little fucked up in the head. or I couldn't, like, things couldn't be going well. Had to like live in the angst, and now I just realized that that's just kind of like that's going to eventually short circuit itself, and not that's not a great way to live. But it's very easy to kind of I view more about like trying to tap into a certain kind of emotion based on like what a particular piece of music makes me feel, and then the words just kind of flow. But living in that sort of like angsty place is not a great way to live long term.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I kind of go about writing songs the same way, where it's like you don't have to be going through a breakup to write a breakup song. You know what I mean? Like you said, it's kind
Hmm.
of what the music conveys, and how you emotionally connect with that piece is how the lyrics kind of come from that.
Yeah, that's what has been working for me a lot lately is because there's a certain a guitar riff can make you think evoke certain feelings or a certain like vibe or situation. Like you close your eyes and you play like a riff, and suddenly you're like in the middle of a snowfield or something, and then you write from like that
Yeah, yeah.
mindset.
Absolutely. I've always started with guitar first. Like whenever I write a song, I hardly ever will write a full sheet of lyrics before putting it to music. Like I always write the riff first. How does the chord progression make me feel? What feelings or emotions could I convey through this guitar? So it's interesting how that
Uh-huh.
works. And I know people who do it backwards, or backwards to me at least. Like they'll write a whole song and then put it to then they'll write the instrumentals after it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's always really interesting to me when it can when people do it backwards like that, because I gotta like feel something a particular thing before I am can get the words down. So let me ask you about a particular song since we're on this topic that I have been listening to, enjoying. What can you tell me about the process of writing and doing the song Treehouse? Because that's I really like that song off of the EP. That sort of has that very sort of like kind of like mellow, like soft and hard post hardcore vibe that I really enjoy.
Yeah, Treehouse was like I think it was one of the first songs that we wrote for Nothing Matters. And I think that kind of like set the tone of the direction we were going to.
Mm-hmm.
That was a challenging song to kind of record, because like you said, like it has those moments where it's like super gentle and soft, and clean guitars, clean vocals, and then the chorus comes in, it's
Mm-hmm.
super heavy. That one kind of just came about. I think I had that little riff in the beginning with the clean guitar, and then I knew that I wanted to build it up, into a bigger chorus. And then once I
Mm-hmm.
kind of had the instrumentals down, I think the lyrics came super easy for that one. Just kind of like conveying the emotion of having someone going through something and other people perceiving it differently, or not being very empathetic about how people are feeling and stuff like that. That's kind of the basis of that
Mm-hmm.
song.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a pretty relatable topic in the internet age, I think. The, this idea of empathy. Um, I remember it feels like it's less common nowadays, or it's more of an active pursuit. The to be empathetic. I feel like it came. I always felt like it kind of came naturally, but it seems like in this day and age that's more difficult than it should be.
Yeah, I agree, especially like with more interactions and relationships being built through phones and computers. It's kind of hard to gauge how someone could be empathetic, or anything like that. So
Mm,
I agree.
totally. And when you is Sunday morning your first band, or did you play in bands like in high school?
No, Sunday morning has been my only band that I've ever been in. Yeah.
Uh huh. So this is kind of like the has gone all the way through then for you.
Yeah, yeah. This has been like so many learning curves, and and growing as an individual and growing as a songwriter, as a musician. And it's cool because Eric and Parker have been in the band. They've been the two consistent members with me too. So being able to
Mm-hmm.
grow like emotionally with them and grow as musicians and stuff. So it's been a learning process for sure.
Oh, most certainly. Being in bands there are like is one of the most fraught social dynamics is being in a band with someone because it's a creative relationship, it's a it's a business relationship, it's in a way a familial relationship, like because you have to do all of these different
Mm-hmm.
aspects of the job. It, I'm amazed Slipknot
Yeah, and it's
has
like
been together as long.
I mean, how would they have like when they were at their height? They had like 9 dudes in there, right?
Yeah, I think it's still nine, and I think the only reason that the two members have changed is because Paul died and then Joey died, or had to retire
Yeah,
and then passed
yeah,
away.
that's right. And that must be such a crazy dynamic too, having gone through all those years with the same 9 people, and then all of a sudden two of them are dead. Like that is crazy. I can imagine
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And now that I think about it, the only one who's like left the band for personal reasons was Chris, one of the percussionists, and then they brought in I think he's called Tortilla Man. I don't know if we figured out who he really is yet.
That's right, Tortilla Man. And there was all the speculation about who Tortilla Man was for so long. I remember seeing articles on Facebook about like who's Tortilla Man.
Uh huh. Yeah, and something else I've always thought about them. I did not anticipate this as being a Slipknot centered discussion as it is, but I'm here for it. Um, the other cool thing, the other thing is like you could. A lot of people, I'm sure, initially wanted to write them off as a gimmick, but they always had like the music to back up the gimmick. Like those songs would be good if they didn't have the masks and the image. Like all the image and all that other stuff like brings you in, but then they keep you with the songs.
Yeah, they are all like super talented musicians. Like I know, like Joey was a crazy drummer. Corey Taylor has an unbelievable voice. Both of the guitarists are insane. You know what I mean? Like they had it going on for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So okay, so if Sun and then so if Sunday and so if Sunday morning starts like and starting band in 2016 is like when you the core three, like when you guys first came together.
Yeah, yep. 2016 is in the core three. Yeah, we started.
Uh-huh. Very fun time in the country's history to start a creative project, I can imagine. But when
Yeah,
we
yeah,
this
yeah. It was
when we
wild.
but I can listening to all your stuff, like I can absolutely see like a really interesting like progression songwriting wise, because I love the early stuff is great. It had I would describe it as more having more of like a modern rock kind of feel, and I feel like you've really guys have really started like honing in on the specific thing you do and bringing in like the post hardcore like hardcore influences and more melodic influences. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's and like I said, like touching before, like about the process of growing. As a musician and emotionally with the same 3 people is kind of going like you can kind of hear it through our sound. Like if you listen to our first songs that we put out compared to what we, like Circle the Sun is the last song we put out. You could definitely see, and that's something we've always tried to be like cognizant of is what do we like, but like who are we? You know what I mean? Like when you put on a song, like why is this a Sunday morning song? So that's something we always like, especially in the studio, we try to be cognizant of and kind of have that conversation every single time. Like, well, what are we really trying to do here? Like, are we trying to be different or are we trying to be what Sunday morning really is?
Yeah, and having that like clear goal like going into the studio is and being able to like have different goals like each time, I imagine, because I imagine the mission objective will change over time. But let me ask you about your experiences in the studio. Um and I'm not sure if it's differed too much from your earlier songs to the leading up to the two EPs and then the split. When the first time I was in a recording studio, and even now, like that, I do a lot of my home recordings at home. There's always like a 2 to 3 minute time window where I completely forget how to play my instrument and how the songs have gone that I have played hundreds of times. And I was curious if was a similar, if you had a similar experience, like when in the environment of the studio.
Yeah, I've definitely I've definitely had those moments, especially with like vocals too. I feel like I'll get in my head too much when I step in the vocal booth, and then it's like, oh boy, here we go again. But we thankfully work with a guy, Frank Matartona, and on Long Island at Voodoo Studios, and he's like our father. He keeps us in shape, and you know, like without him, I don't know how these songs would have turned out. You know.
Very cool. So he kind of acts as a producer.
Yeah, he's like the George Martin for us. He's like the fifth member.
Cool, cool. And what is something that you've learned from him that has been very valuable in terms of writing songs or even like recording?
Um, that's a great question because I've learned so much from him, and I think in terms of like just tracking and recording, vocals have been, you know, like my biggest thing, and just like the delivery and conveying of emotions in a song is kind of what's going to get people, you know, to listen to you. You could write a song that has so much meaning, and if it doesn't sound like it has meaning, then people aren't going to connect with it emotionally. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, finding that balance of being able to have good takes that convey the emotion, um, that's kind of been the biggest thing I've learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. It almost is like you find yourself in the booth, like almost feeling like a voice actor or an actor, like just trying to like really get into the emotional frame of mind of these words you've written so that you're singing what the words say you're feeling almost.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it's easy to do that. Like sometimes you'll just be so emotionally invested in what you've wrote that it just comes secondhand. But like sometimes, you know, especially like maybe during a verse or a bridge or something, like you really gotta, you know, pay attention to how you're singing and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that he's taught me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, incredibly valuable. That's a really valuable tool tool to have for sure. And when you guys first formed, I want to make sure I'm asking this correct. When you guys first formed, like how active were you in playing shows? Like when you first started, were you like just trying to get out and play as much as possible, or did you like kind of like develop and work on original stuff and then give yourselves the time to get shows booked when you started?
Yeah, so when we first started playing, we honestly like we would play bars all the time and we do like covers. We played for like 3 hours doing covers, all like 90 songs and you
Uh huh.
know, Taking Back Sunday, you know what I mean? Third Eye
Sure.
Blind, like all songs like that. Green Day, of course, and like so
Uh
we
huh.
started off doing that, and then like eventually we started writing our own stuff, and then we were just like putting it into different parts of our set list, and we'd be like, hey, this is an original song, and then like once we kind of got over that bar scene, and we started playing venues and meeting up with other bands in the scene and stuff like that, and then it was just strictly from there on out, just originals. So I'm glad we made that switch
Mm-hmm.
early.
Oh no, no, totally. I can just picture it right now. I don't know if Connecticut's like bar cover scene is similar to like Long Island or like Manhattan. I haven't found it too much in Brooklyn and Queens in the scenes I play in, but um, yeah, those like 3 hour gig, those like 3 hour cover gigs with like a 15-minute break in between, brutal, brutal.
Oh, dude, so bad. And like we'd be drinking too, so like, you just felt so exhausted after.
Hmm. Oh man, I can only imagine. Like that's why like I love like the DIY punk scene because I when it comes to playing covers, I only want to play songs I really like and I want to play them the way that I would want to play them, like kind of reinvent them in a way. I don't want to just be a live jukebox for drunk people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And like we started on the idea of doing a cover here or there, and like we're all into like classic rock too. So like we were thinking about doing a Fleetwood Mac song one time and just like really making it our
Hmm.
style. I think that's how covers should be, especially in like you said, like in the DIY punks, and you know, make it unique, make it what you want.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm so glad when you said classic rock, you said Fleetwood Mac because I was afraid you were going to maybe say like Foo Fighters or something like that. I was going to feel really
Oh
bad.
man, every time on my like my Spotify playlist, I've been noticing it'd be like classic rock and it'd be like Weezer, and I'm like, no, this is not good.
I know exactly what you mean. Like the first moment I had that was when I went to the 10-year anniversary tour for Sticks and Stones for New Found Glory,
Hmm.
and the that was the first time I had ever seen one of the opening bands called The Story So Far, and I had that moment where I was like, wait, so there's a band called The Story So Far. They're going to play that song, The Story So Far, and I also like that band All Time Low, and it feels like I'm on. And I had the moments like, are all my new favorite bands going to be named after songs from my old favorite bands?
It's crazy, yeah.
No. Yeah, like or I talked to Matt from All Systems Go, great band out of like the New Jersey area, and that's another one that's a boxcar racer song.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, all systems go. Absolutely.
Uh-huh. Man, it's gonna come for all of us eventually, but I'm just glad that
Yeah,
you know I know.
unfortunately.
Yeah, and I know that like Machine Gun Kelly is like, and all the TikTok pop punk rap is kind of controversial to some people. Like some people like it, some people think it's the worst thing ever. I'm just glad that there are some kids that are still into guitar music.
Yeah, yeah, that's been like, man, that's been such an interesting thing. I really don't care for it that much. Like I said, like I grew up on the Doors and Van Halen and the Who and bands
Uh
like
huh.
that. So I've always kind of stuck to my roots in that sense. But
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Oh no. Absolutely. Like the big, the big, the big, the big bands of classic rock for sure.
the big
Absolutely.
boys, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The Who I always liked. The Who to me as like someone who loved punk rock, I always gravitated towards The Who as one because they didn't have a ton of guitar solos, and ACDC because it was just like three open chords and it sounded great. And they could play the same three chords for the whole
Yeah,
album and it would still sound great.
yeah, yeah. There's a certain attitude that those two bands bring to where it's like it's got that punk rock attitude, and like you said, that three chords, that's all they need.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Um, so when it comes, so you Sunday morning, I put out two EPs. You've got a new single, and then the split is going to come out. Do you guys think you'll continue doing like the single releases, or do you guys have plans for like another EP in the future?
Yeah, I, I see the investment in doing the single releases, but I think we're gonna do like a 6 song EP, and maybe two singles off of it, one or two singles.
Hmm.
But we're heading into the studio in December to do all that, so hopefully next year sometime.
Nice, very cool. And have you guys ever like gone on the road yet as a band, or have you mostly played in the sort of Connecticut, New England area?
Yeah, it's been mostly New England, like Philadelphia.
Mm.
Maine, Massachusetts. We have a weekender coming up in August. That's Gardner, Massachusetts, Philly, and then Long Island. So kind of just like staying close to home, 3 hours within Connecticut, and then plan is
Mm.
to just branch our way out from that, kind of spider web out.
Yeah, that's the smart way to do it. You kind of see how far you can go in a weekend, and then just hit everywhere in that area. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah. That's the plan.
well, excellent. And where do you play when you play Long Island? Because like it seems like for the longest time, all my favorite bands would hit Jersey, they'd hit Long Island, never hit New York City. So it'd always be going out to get to shows. But what are like your favorite places to play? I know Amityville in Long Island's supposed to be cool.
Yeah, that's where we're playing. That's where we're playing on this run is Amityville, and then a place called the G Spot in Philly. And then there's a new place in Gardner, Massachusetts that we're playing at. It's like a VFW, so that should be a really fun show.
Very cool, very cool. That sounds rad. If you ever get down to Baltimore, I know Goalkeeper play a place called the Depot a lot. But there's also the Auto Bar is a great
I've
spot
heard of it. Yeah.
in the city. I used to go to shows there all the time. And then the big place in Towson, so kind of in the suburbs, is the Wrecker Theater, which went away for a while, but now it's back, and I love that place.
Oh, nice, cool. Yeah, we're definitely planning to get to Maryland and down there, and hopefully next year sometime. So we'll definitely check those out. But I've always wanted to play Brooklyn too. Like I've always wanted to play New York City.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, you'll have to come down and play with my band. I bet we'll have a great time.
Yeah, yeah, we could call it the the What Makes Sense Boys. We'll have a big bash out in Brooklyn.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because as far as places in Brooklyn, Our Wicked Lady, I know a lot of my friends played there. That's a cool spot in Brooklyn. We're playing with Goalkeeper at Sovern, which is an amazing venue. And then Gold Sounds. Gold Sounds is another place where the bands that come through New York like to play. That's a cool place too.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, I think we're actually trying to get to Brooklyn by the end of the year, so we'll definitely be in touch. We'll make something happen.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that, man. And a couple more things I want to ask you just to nerd out a little bit, and then I'll let you get going because I've really enjoyed getting to chat with you, man. Because I've heard I love your
Yeah, me
band
as well.
stuff, so I really enjoyed this. Um, I'm curious to just talk guitars a little bit. What do you use live, and how does it differ from when you go into the studio? Do you bring your same guitar that you play live?
Ugh, I have gone through many guitars. The problem is I'm left-handed, so my selection is very small. So what
Uh
ends up
huh.
happening is I'll buy a left-handed guitar body, and then I will buy a neck, and I'll buy pickups, and I'll give it to my luthier, and she'll just put it all together, and I kind of create like a Frankenstein guitar.
Uh huh.
So I've gone through a bunch of guitars, but recently, for the past 2 years, I've been using a Jazz Master, which I love, and then I've been using a tele. I've always used Telecasters for like my entire life. I just love they're like blue collar. Bruce Springsteen made me want to play a
Mm-hmm.
Telecaster, um, so I've been doing that, and then I recently just got a Gibson SG, and I love it. And I was so against SGs for like forever, and I was like, yeah, I'll never play a Gibson ever. I was always Team Fender, and then I picked up an
Mm-hmm.
SG, and I was like, oh boy, here we go.
That's cool. Question about the Gibson SG. Do you ever fight with it to keep it in tune? Because I've heard that it's a struggle with them for them to stay in tune. I was wondering how you get around that.
Yeah, actually I played it for like the second time ever. We played a headline show in Connecticut, and I don't think I was in tune the entire set. Like it was so bad. It was out of tune the entire. I didn't even bother. Like I was like bending chords to be in tune with everyone else. Like
Uh-huh.
it was horrible. So I brought it to my luthier, and I was like, we're gonna have to bump the gauge up. So we went with Ernie Ball power slinkies. I think there were 9s on it before, so now it's like 10 to 48 gauge strings, and that's been solid so far. I've been rocking with those.
Ah, good. Yeah. Yeah, 9s are a little, because I had a buddy who's like a blues guy in high school that I would jam with, and he had like 9s, and every time I would play his strat, I would play too hard and just break all his strings because I tend to play kind of aggressively.
No, well, that's the thing too. Is like yeah, you'll go through so many strings, and even with your picking hand, like you'll break strings that way. But even just like fretting too hard with 9s could make your guitar go completely out of tune. And that's kind of another problem that I had. Like when we did the split, I tried to use the SG, but it had the 9s on it, and I was fretting too hard. So I was like,
Hmm.
whatever. And I actually recorded the split with my Jazz Master with 52, like 10, I think 11 to 52s on it.
Uh-huh. That's sweet. I have had Jazz Master on my mind as like a backup guitar for a while, and I've never played one outside of like the Squires that you can typically find on the rack, but I've got to get my hands on like a Mexican Fender or a Ventura for the Jazz Master because there's they just seem like there aren't other guitars with those pickups because they're not P90s, they're not humbuckers, they're not single coils, which is very uniquely it.
Yeah, yeah, I love them. Growing up, my dad was a huge Elvis Costello fan, and Elvis
Uh-huh.
Costello always played a jazz master, so that's kind of always been ingrained in my mind when I think of that. But you're right, the pickups are great. Like you could throw it into a orange amp, and you could turn up the gain, and it'll get good bite, good mid, and then you put the middle selector, the bridge pickup on, and you have like super clean, like bell soundy tones. I love how versatile they
Hmm.
are.
Yeah, it's and yeah, and then and same to you. Like Costello's the guy who really put the Jazz Master in my mind when I was younger because I didn't find out about Dinosaur Jr. until later. I'm not cool.
Oh yeah. What
Um,
guitar do you play?
I alternate between. I have a beautiful beautiful Fender Telecaster that I love. That's single coil. Uh, I love playing that for clean stuff or for bluesy stuff. And then I have an Epiphone Les Paul Custom that I've had since high school that I play for like
Nice.
heavier stuff.
Yeah, I've always wanted to get my hands on a Les Paul too. But I just like the way the SGs look. But
Oh,
Tellys, man, they're the
super
best.
sick.
They're the workhorse.
Yeah, like there's just something so inherently like iconic and beautiful about them. I just it's one of my favorite guitars. I want to play around with a Tele Deluxe with humbuckers next time I get a chance because I'm a big Motion City Soundtrack fan and he plays a Tele with a humbucker. Justin does, and I'm always curious like
Yeah,
what's the difference between a Tele with humbuckers and a Les Paul.
yeah. I used to have a Telly Deluxe. Like I built one with the wide range humbuckers in them, and I loved it. It was like super full. I mean, the wide range like really you really get the name out of it. You know what I mean? Like you really get a wide range of tone with it. Um,
Hmm.
I unfortunately like that's the one guitar I regret selling is the there's like a 72 Deluxe kind of vibe, but I have a wide range in my Jazz Master bridge. This company called Curtis Novak um,
Uh huh.
created like a wide range in the shape of a Jazz Master. So you just plop it in and solder
Hmm.
it, and you get a wide range.
Oh, that's cool. So you can get like big like rock and roll humbucker sounds, and then you can switch to like the neck of the Jazz Master. That's wild. That's got to be that's a very cool sounding guitar. And you're building all these because you're left-handed.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Because you walk into any any Sam Ash or Guitar Center, and they have like a Telecaster and a Strat, and that's it. So I kind of just like go on
Mhm.
Reverb or eBay and just try to find like cheap bodies, like they could be Squire bodies or like off-brand bodies, and then just kind of assemble it after that. And it's nice because you have a variety of pickups to choose from too to kind of start your bass.
That's really cool that you take that on because I'm left-handed also. But when I first started playing guitar, the guy at the store was like, "Learn right-handed because it'll be easier." And I was like, I'm
Oh man,
16, okay."
I,
Um,
I wish someone told me to do that.
uh-huh. You ever do the Hendrix thing and like string it upside and play it upside down, like string a right-hand guitar the other way?
Yeah, when I first started playing guitar, that's what I did. My parents didn't know that I was left-handed playing guitar, so they bought a right-handed guitar, and I flipped the strings around and stuff like that. But then I was like, once I held a left-handed guitar, I was like, oh, this is so much easier. Like no knobs in the way or
Hmm.
anything like that.
Oh my God, yes, yeah. It's just like I keep hitting the tone knob every time I strum.
Exactly.
Last thing I want to last thing I want to ask you, what's an album that you really like that you think more people should know about?
Oh my Lord, that is such a tough question. That is so hard. You
Uh
hit me
huh.
with the hardest one, the last. I would have to like, oh my God, off the top of my head, man, it's weird because I go through phases of listening to different things. So like right now, I've been on a huge Iron Maiden and Elvis Costello kind of kick. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Off the top of my head, like I don't know. I would say anything that What Makes Sense put out. I think they are fantastic musicians. I think they need to be heard by the world.
I agree. I love them. Like I'm so excited that I've played with them and that I get to play with them tomorrow. Actually, that I think they're great. I think them and I can't wait for Goalkeeper's new stuff. Like there's so much great music happening in this area of the country that's like going to be heard by everyone. I think in a few years, it's really exciting to be a part of this little uh, this like new scene that's coming up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the best thing about it is like we're pretty good friends with Goalkeeper too, and we know Mark really well. And the best thing about Goalkeeper and What Makes Sense is like they're just fantastic human beings, and they're just fun to be
Hmm.
around, and they're super loving and super inviting, and that's like that's how it should be. You know what I mean? It's like you said, it's this area of the United States, man. There's a lot going on, and it's a lot to look forward to.
Absolutely. Thanks for talking to me, Wesley. One last time, when is the split with What Makes Sense coming out?
Yeah, so Split's coming out July 29th. It'll be available on all streaming platforms.
Awesome. And Sunday Morning have two EPs out now, bunch of singles, and this new split is going to be great. I can't wait to hear it. So I'll be in touch once I do. And thanks again for talking to me today, Wesley. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was very nice meeting you and talking with you today. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you, folks. That is our show for this week. Check out that split EP Sunday Morning with What Makes Sense, which is available everywhere you get your music July 29th. And then in the meantime, you can check out Sunday Morning's entire catalog. They have two EPs and a bunch of singles that are available everywhere you get your music. And I think it's very good. And I enjoyed getting to talk to Wesley on the show here. So I look forward to playing with them in the future. So, folks, if you enjoyed this and want to listen to more of this podcast, you can head to awesomedisaster.com. That's got links to everywhere you can get the show. We're on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. Everywhere you get podcasts, my show is there because I want people to listen to my show any way that they can. And all my links to my social media are also on my website, awesomedisaster.com as well. I am on Instagram, willcarry23, at Comic Will Carry, and I am also on TikTok, I think under at Comic Will Carry as well. You can find me there. And anything related to me, you can find at awesomedisaster.com. And if you want to take an additional step, you can sign up for the Patreon, and you can check out the merch store, also available at awesomedisaster.com as well. And take care of yourselves this summer. It's going to be hot. I'm actually going to my friend's bachelor party in Vermont this weekend, so we will see what adventures await me in New England this weekend. And thank you guys again so much for continuing to listen. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time between Awesome and Disaster. Stay safe, wear a mask, get vaxxed and boosted, and stomp out fascism. Take care, everybody.